I'm going to focus on a more geographically narrow area. We looked at about 100 locations of a major quick serve restaurant business. We zeroed in on Washington state to see how this type of chain may want to better understand customer behavior at various locations throughout that state. The analysis looked at travel using a range of metrics, including trip length, time of day, and dwell time. And for those who don't know, dwell time refers to how long a vehicle remains stationary at a location. There's actually a lot of insight to be gained by observing how long vehicles are not moving. Now, often large businesses want to go from that high level national or regional understanding of customer activity to a much deeper dive on a specific location. And the high level traffic data that looks across a large geographic area helps them to pinpoint a more specific location or region to dig into with even more granular and detailed metrics to really unpack that customer behavior. Data around how far customers travel from home, how often they visit, how long they spend at a given location, and even patterns around the vehicle type has significant implications for what sorts of services a business may want to offer at its retail sites. So with this quick serve restaurant chain, we first segmented the locations by urban density to see what kind of insights we could gain about customer behavior and how that customer makeup changes by density. So in the graph on this slide, the distribution of quick serve restaurant sites by census tract is shown. And you can see that the sites locations are also plotted on the map to the right. This business has located pretty heavily in suburban and urban areas, but there's a reasonable distribution of locations across various land uses. So let's try to understand how activity at these locations differs by time of day depending on density. Understanding and anticipating daily visitation trends is, of course, critical to business planning decisions, such as staffing, advertising, site selection, even product selection. And this chart shows the proportion of total daily visitors that travel to these sites over the course of a typical day. Urban core locations, which is shown in the pink color, appear to have a higher proportion of their overall traffic in the evening or late evening compared to other locations. There's a small uptick in the proportion of traffic for rural locations in the early morning. That's the yellow line on the chart. And that's potentially indicating an early start time for people that may be passing through on the way to work. And suburban locations tend to see their peak traffic in the afternoon hours. Dwell time is also important for fueling businesses or businesses that may be exploring getting into fueling and charging. Call that dwell time is how long a vehicle remains stationary between trips. This can be further broken down by powertrain. So we can really look at internal combustion engines shown in yellow, electric vehicles shown in blue, or hybrid vehicles shown in green on the chart. And the black bars on the chart show the level of variability in the data as well. So we can see what the spread looks like. On this chart, we see that urban and urban core locations see the longest dwell times for EVs. Overall, however, there is a lot of variability in the EV data compared to the internal combustion data. And that could be reflecting that some of these locations may already have charging facilities. So EV drivers visiting those locations may actually be staying longer than at locations without the chargers. And that could be driving this high level of variability. So you're not only seeing the averages, you're also seeing the spread at that data. So the next data set here is looking at the demographic information, again, segmented by density. So we can see for income level, the urban locations do see the visitors with the highest household income. But when you look at presence of children in the household, you see it's pretty evenly distributed across all four types. There's not much of a difference between the rural versus urban or urban core locations in terms of the proportion of households with children. Where we do see a wider range is the proportion of visitors with a bachelor's degree. We see that spread is the lowest for the rural locations, highest for urban core, and not a lot of variability in that data either. And these are just a few of these slices that we can provide on socio-demographic information to help round out that transportation view of travel to these locations.